Good morning, everyone, and today we are embarking upon a new limud, a new sefer that we're going to learn together. EMUNAH will be Bitachon, written by the Chazon Ish, and as is our custom, every time that we begin a new sefer, we spend the first day with a biographical sketch of the mechaber, the author of the sefer itself. And in this way, once we get a deeper appreciation to the godless, to the greatness of Torah, of Yiras Shamayim, of the scholarship of the author, then it will give us a deeper insight and an appreciation to the greatness and the depth of the Sefer and the importance of the message, and will allow us to go through the words properly so that we should be able to understand it to the best of our abilities. So the author of the Sefer is known as the Chazon Ish, Avraham Yeshaya Horowitz. He was born in the year 1878 in a city called Kosovo, which is known as modern-day Belarus. And his father was the chief rabbi over there in Kosovo, Rav Shmaryahu Yosef Horowitz, and his mother, whose name was Rasha Leah, she was the daughter of Shaul Katzenallenbogen, who was one of the other Gedolim, one of the great rabbinic authorities of that generation. Now, he was an unknown Talmud Chacham and a figure for all of his years, more or less, that he was living in Europe. Although that he ended up in 1920 moving to Vilna, and at that time he started to become someone with a reputation. He got very close to Rav Chaim Ozer Grzinski, who was the Gadol Ador. He was the leading rabbinic figure of the generation. And he would consult with him on all religious and communal matters. And his psak halacha, which means that his understanding in halacha and how to determine what is right and what is wrong, what is mutter, what is asr, and so on and so forth, started gaining traction, and he became very admired and looked up to for his scholarship and the Talmud Chacham that he was. In the year 1933, the Chazon Ish, he ended up migrating to Palestine, which was Palestine at the time, to Eretz Yisrael, and for the next 20 years of his life was the real glory in the career of the Chazon Ish. This is what he is known mostly for, what he left over, besides the over 40 Svarim that he wrote. By the way, the Chazon Ish itself is an acronym of his name. Ish is Avraham Yeshaya, the Aleph, the Yud, and the Shin, and that is how he is known as the Chazon Ish. He wrote on Halacha, he wrote on Gemara, on Talmud, on Shulchan Aruch, and he was known for his greatness there. But once that he came to Eretz Yisrael, he became known as the defender of Yiddishkeit, of Torah, of mitzvahs. He was, although a small man in stature, although a weak man in constitution, many stories told about the Chazon Ish, that he was his constitution was so shvach, it was so fragile and so weak, that he literally would learn until he ran out of energy, till he ran out of strength on any given day. The story is told that they once found the Chazon Ish lying on the floor, somewhere between his desk and his bed. And when they picked him up, they said, "Rebbe, what happened?" He said, "I made a cheshbon, I made an accounting for myself of how much energy I thought that I had left in my body, that if I'll learn until this time, I'll be able to get up and walk over to my bed and collapse in my bed. But I made a mistake. I ran out of strength between my desk and the bed. I didn't have enough energy left anymore." And the Chazon Ish learned like this all of his life. He was riddled with stomach ailments and the like, days that he couldn't even put on tefillin, and he wasn't able to function in a regular way, but nevertheless, these things did not stop the Chazon Ish from what he was doing, because the Chazon Ish was a man on a mission, and his mission was that he's living in Eretz Yisrael, and Eretz Yisrael is Eretz HaKodesh, the land of Kedusha, of holiness and of sanctity, and therefore the Chazon Ish found that it was quite important and central to his mission that he would restore Eretz Yisrael to the halachic land that it's supposed to be, being guided by the principles and the laws of the Torah itself. And the Chazon Ish spent those 20 years instilling in Eretz Yisrael what it means to be a Jew who's living in the Holy Land. And he is responsible for all of the laws of Shemitah, of Truma, and Maisa, and everything above. He made sure that we would have all of these in place. And now that we have today the movement, the Shemitah movement, with hundreds of farmers that are giving up their fields during the Shemitah year, according to the calculations of the Chazon Ish, it's all in his chus. Trumas and Meiser, which are taken by every God-fearing Jew in Eretz Yisrael, it's all in his chus. Many measurements the Chazon Ish had on a revius, on a kazayis and the like, how big the kiddush cup has to be, how much matzah you need to eat, they were all given to us over by the Chazon Ish, a size of a tefach and so on and so forth. Now, the Chazon Ish was fierce in his defense of the sanctity of Eretz Yisrael. It bothered him greatly, the state of Israel. He was an anti-Zionist through and through from the beginning until the very end. And he did everything to defend the honor of the Torah and the Rebbeinu Shalom and bring Kvod Shemayim, bring the glory to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He and David Ben Gurion had many altercations between each other where the Chazon Ish could not and would not agree with the things that Ben Gurion wanted to put into the land of Israel, into what he called the state of Israel. And there are different stories that circulate, but one of the famous stories which took place is that Ben Gurion came to speak to the Chazon Ish about political religious matters. Maybe it was the draft, maybe it was the young women being called up to the army, which the Chazon Ish was vehemently opposed to and refused to allow a Jewish woman, a Yiddish Afroy, a Jewish woman, to be able to go to the army, chas v'chalila. And when they got in the argument, he told them, the Gemara tells us the following. If there is a bridge and there are two caravans that are coming, one is of camels with no wares laden on their back, and the other one is where you have a camel who has the wares and the packs laden on his back. The Gemara says, do you know who goes first? The one that is carrying his wares, the one that is loaded up with the bundles, we defer to him instead of the one that is going to go along without anything on. It is because it's a much bigger journey for the one who has his back laden with all of these things. And so he's turned to Ben Gurion and he told him, and so too it is with the two of us. He says, you are a secularist who is coming up with a new idea of what it means to be a Jew, what it means to be an Israeli. He says, you have nothing on your back. He says, but I'm coming with all of the thousands of years of our Torah, of our mitzvahs, of our heritage, of our legacy, of our minhagim. I'm coming with all of that. And therefore our backs are laden with the kedusha of Am Yisrael, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His Torah. And therefore you should defer to my opinion, because it's not my opinion. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants for Klal Yisrael. So in his short stature and his fragile disposition and constitution, the Chazon Ish was fierce as a lion to defend the sanctity of Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, and the entire world of Torah that is in Eretz Yisrael today is basically based upon and living in the schus of the efforts of the Chazon Ish. Many of the great halachic renderings that we have in the world are in the schus of the Chazon Ish. And the sefer that we're about to learn right now, EMUNAH u'bitachon, was something that was printed after the death of the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish himself passed away in the year of 1953 after living out the last 20 years of his life in Eretz Yisrael. And this sefer was printed after he passed. We don't know exactly when it was written. It would seem to be that it was written along the lifetime of the Chazon Ish, these important messages that he had. But the messages that we will see and the lessons that we will learn are certainly timeless in the world of EMUNAH and bitachon, how to understand our purpose here in this world, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants of us, our connection to our neshama, our connection to the Torah, our connection to our midos, to our character, how to become a more refined, noble, and better person, how to deal with the changing of the world around us, technology and the like, and how to put it all together so that we can live a life that of purity, of emunah and bitachon, the faith, the belief in Hashem, and the bitachon, the trust and the reliance in Hashem. The Chazon Ish was about machadesh, which means he had creative insights into understanding concepts of Yiddishkeit that are revolutionary and eye-opening, and in Yetz Hashem, soul and heart-opening as well as we go through this. I'd just like to conclude with a Maisa, with this which I heard from Rav Shlomo Reb de Zechazad Livracha, who considered himself to be a very close Talmud, a very close student of the Chazon Ish. And he said over the following idea, that when you would walk into the private chambers of the Chazon Ish, and you would sit in his presence, and you would be able to bask in the glory of the tzaddik that he was, he says, you actually began to feel, you could understand what it must have been like to sit in the presence of the Avos HaKadoshim of our forefathers Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So lofty, so great, so high up in the world of Ruchnius, of Torah, of Kedusha, it seems even Kabbalah and the like was the Chazon Ish. And yet so sensitive was the heart and the soul of the Chazon Ish that he took so seriously every single Jew that came in front of him. And he was there for them in the most difficult of times and would rejoice with them in the greatest of times. The Chazon Ish was an Adam Shalom, a person of total shleimus and completion. And as a result of that, we're going to learn the words which hopefully will give us more shleimus, more completion, more spiritual greatness in the world of emunah and bitachon. So tomorrow, Yetz Hashem, we're going to embark upon the Sefer. Today we understand to the abilities that we can, the greatness of the man himself, Rav Avram Yeshaya Karelitz, the Chazon Ish, who was a tzaddik in his generation and whose Torah and mitzvahs and message we live on today. All the best.